For the past hour, we have been looking in and listening to Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt at the White House press briefing room talk about many headlines. So moments ago, our Nancy Cordes asked a question to White House Press Secretary Leavitt. This is a question regarding some overnight pretty incendiary comments President Trump made about Democrats on social media. Here's her question and the response.
Caroline, this morning, President Trump accused 6 Democratic lawmakers of seditious behavior punishable by death. Just to be clear, does the president want to execute members of Congress?
No. Let's be clear about what the president is responding to, because many in this room want to talk about the president's response, but not what brought the president to responding in this way. You have sitting members of the United States Congress who conspired together to orchestrate a video message to members of the United States military, to active duty service members, to members of the national security apparatus, encouraging them to defy the president's lawful orders. The sanctity of our military rests on the chain of command. And if that chain of command is broken, it can lead to people getting killed. It can lead to chaos. And that's what these members of Congress who swore an oath to abide by the Constitution are essentially encouraging. We have 1.3 active duty service members in this country. And if they hear this radical message from sitting members of Congress, that could inspire chaos, and it could incite violence, and it certainly could disrupt the chain of command. These 3 members of Congress, I will also add, knew exactly what they were doing. You look at Alyssa Slotkin. She's a former member of the CIA. Mark Kelly was a captain in the U.S. Navy. Maggie Goodlander was a naval officer, and notably, she is also the wife of Joe Biden's national security former advisor, Jake Sullivan. And so these members knew what they were doing. They were leading into their credentials as former members of our military, as veterans, as former members of the national security apparatus to signal to people serving under this commander-in-chief, Donald Trump, that you can defy him and you can betray your oath of office. That is a very, very dangerous message, and it perhaps is punishable by law. I'm not a lawyer. I'll leave that to the Department of Justice and the Department of War to decide.
But the president has
Chris,
frequently, but Caroline, can I just follow up? The president and the vice president, for that matter, have accused the other side of encouraging political violence. Isn't that exactly what the president is doing when he says that members of Congress should be killed?
Why aren't you talking about what these members of Congress are doing to encourage and incite violence? They are literally saying to 1.3 million active duty service members not to defy the chain of command, not to follow lawful orders.
Actually,
every single
you can refuse an illegal order, which
but
is
they're suggesting, Nancy, that the president has given illegal orders, which he has not. Every single order that is given to this United States military by this commander-in-chief and through this chain of command, through the Secretary of War, is lawful. And the courts have proven that. This administration has an unparalleled record at the Supreme Court because we are following the laws. We don't defy court orders. We do things by the books. And to suggest and encourage that active duty service members defy the chain of command is a very dangerous thing for sitting members of Congress to do. And they should be held accountable, and that's what the president wants to see. Phil.
Thank you.
All right, so we are referencing posts made to Truth Social by President Donald Trump overnight, where he talked about Democrats creating a video, and this is his response: seditious behavior punishable by death. Talking about that video that was created and then given to members of the U.S. military. Now, there was some back and forth there. You heard Nancy Cordes saying, well, what that video actually said was that they should not follow unlawful orders by the president. But this obviously is the response by the president of the United States. So let's talk about it. Live now to CBS News White House reporter Aaron Navarro in Washington following that briefing. So, Aaron, your takeaway from what she just said.
I think it's notable, just to reference for our audience, what is at the heart of that video, of the reaction we got from President Trump this morning, which is the deployment of National Guard to American cities, which was the topic that kind of instigated this video from congressional Democrats. And while Leavitt mentioned that they have won many court rulings, I think it's important to note that there's still a pending Supreme Court ruling on the National Guard troops who were sent to Chicago. That's why you saw a couple days ago the administration pull back troops from Chicago and Portland as the legal battles continue. You brought up President Trump's post, but I just want to bring up the quotes from that video that spurred all of this. As you mentioned, and as Nancy mentioned in her follow-up, these were Democratic members of Congress who said to active military and intelligence officers to say that they should refuse illegal orders. One of the quotes from that video is, quote, "The American people need you to stand up for our laws and our Constitution." That was panned by several Republicans, including Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, but Trump really ratcheted up the rhetoric this morning, claiming that they were engaging these Democrats in seditious behavior, quote, punishable by death. I think it's important to note Leavitt was asked specifically if the president wants these members of Congress to be executed, which is one read of what, he posted this morning. And she started by saying out flat out no before criticizing the video at large. I think her saying it's, quote, sending a very, very dangerous message. The Democrats in this video is interesting given the blatant nature of the President Trump's post this morning.
Yeah, and there has been a lot of blowback. In fact, some prominent Democrats are asking the president to take that down. It sticks in my memory that some of their words, and I'm paraphrasing here, are that if he doesn't take this down, somebody's going to get killed, to Nancy Cortez's question to the press secretary regarding the risk of political violence.
Yeah, and Senator Slotkin, as well as other Democrats that were in that video, put out a joint statement this morning saying, quote, "Every American must unite and condemn the president's calls for our murder and political violence. This is a time for moral clarity." We'll see if President Trump adds on to what he has posted this morning, but certainly getting a lot of condemnation from Democrats on Capitol Hill.
All right, Aaron Navarro in Washington, D.C. with that discussion there as Caroline Leavitt is asked about that very fiery post from President Trump on Truth Social.